All right. Welcome back to the Social Distance Podcast, guys. Sorry we're late. Jonsey was travelling back across the world.
It was my fault.
George and I were racing.
Jonsey.
We were just fatigued. We needed a week off after the tour, but we're back now. Big announcement on the show. I actually announced my retirement from cycling. 2022 is going to be my last year as a professional bike rider, so we have a good long chat about that, and I try not to get too emotional. I don't really. George cried. I cried.
Yeah, he's very
I just feel like people don't trust us when we say we've got a big announcement, because every time we've had a big announcement, it's been an announcement of an announcement. You know, like, oh, we're going to tell. The big announcement is we're going to tell you when the merch is ready. You know, that's been our big announcement. But now we've actually got one, and people are like, oh yeah, big announcement.
Yeah. So I do announce my retirement. So that there's a good chunk of the show dedicated to that. First, we talk about Tour de France as well. We touch on Jonsey's skin cancer scare. Don't use apps to diagnose skin cancers. We just cover George's speeding fines, plenty more.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right.
Like, share, subscribe. Oh, and some new merch.
Yeah.
Let's just run the intro and wing it like we always do and see what comes out of it.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Front kick.
Just getting bored and dance move chat.
My radar's going pretty hard at the moment. I think we should.
Will you shut up, man?
That escalated quickly.
We're going to need to get some more qualified guests on the show, eh?
You've had a rough couple of days, Jonsey.
You've done jet lagged as fuck.
You've done well to make the show. It's nearly 10:30 at night in Aussie, and you've been home for a couple of days. You just had a power nap.
That's playing with fire, eh? So you had a power nap. What time? 9:30 local time, 9:30 p.m. local time.
No, 8 o'clock.
Set up for
I fell asleep halfway through the Shania Twain doco, and then I missed the juicy part, the second half. Yeah, but interesting story actually. She did really well.
I've got a story. I got a Shania Twain story.
Have you?
Really? Well, she was going to buy my friend's house, or my friend's neighbour's house. Yeah, up on the top of Takaka Hill. No, in New Zealand. Yeah, she was going to buy on the top of Takaka Hill.
She owns a station in Queenstown or something, I think.
Yeah, she came in with a helicopter. This is what I heard. Came in with a helicopter and went pretty far away, like top of over where Jack Bauer lives, basically Jack Bauer's house, and just went pulled the plane, went to Queenstown, sold 100 million albums.
So how much time she spent up in NZ?
I don't know.
Haven't spoken to her lately.
I haven't seen her for a while. Yeah.
Anyway, how's the power nap working out for you? How's the 8 p.m.
And when you said, could go at 10 p.m., I was hoping you'd go, let's push it back to 11:45. You know, when your brain goes, more sleep. And I was going, I could do another half. And you're going, no, I'm good to go. I was like, shit.
Well, you called me. You called me a couple of days ago, 6 p.m. European time. And I was like, and you were bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. You chatted to me for an hour, and I was like, that's fucking 2 o'clock in the morning in Melbourne. You're already awake.
It's funny with jet lag when you think that you can beat it, and you get home and you go, right, that's it. I'm shutting it down at 10 o'clock. And you fall asleep and you go, sweet. But then you're up at 1, wide awake, and you think it's like 6 a.m. And then when I check the watch, it's like, oh, no, I'm wide awake.
You lack discipline. This is your issue. So
why?
In many areas, just in general, like this is one of your many, issues of your life. You just lack discipline, But also with the jet lag, because you just got to get to your schedule. Well, that's why I've nailed it now. I've become it's like a hidden ability just to master jet lag, because you just go in, you go local time zone straight away, boom, never get out of it.
Yeah, but
so if you wake up at,
if you wake up at 1,
what do you mean you're not trying that hard?
No, hang on. So I woke up at 1 o'clock, wide awake. Tried everything.
Yeah.
Tried listen, meditation.
You just gotta go through the motions. You just gotta lie in bed and go, I'm not allowed to get out of bed until 8 o'clock or 6 o'clock, and then you got to stay the whole day. So you got to go 20 hours without sleeping, and then the next night you're so fucked that you just do a solid 10 hours in the pit.
Well, I could have done that. Instead, I decided to ring Bewls and chatted him from 2 till 3:30, and then I could tell he was sick of me. So then I stayed up till 6:30, shut it down for 90 minutes, and then got through that day. And I thought, I've beaten it. I'm back normal time, normal sleep. And then, the last couple of nights have been rough. I went to sleep at 7:30 last night. Then
we made you do a podcast at 10:30.
That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I had a skin cancer scare. So I had this little thing on my eye, and I thought when I got to France, I go, shit, that's getting bigger. Thought it was a scratch.
What is
There's
it?
There's an app you can get, and I thought maybe I could fast track this and get a doctor.
Never Google medical problems.
Exactly. And
Like
for
I
the
farted
listeners,
last night. Google it and it says you're going to die tomorrow.
well, there's an app called Scanema Insta something, and it was developed by University of Michigan to scan like skin cancers. So I did the photo, sent it off, and then straight away they said 89% chance this is something to worry about. I thought,
Really?
Yeah, 89%. I thought, shit, I don't like those odds. And I'm stressing about it when I got back. And then I thought, they said for $24, you can send the photo off to a doctor. And then the doctor in America will give you like their recommendation based on the photo. And you fill in all these details. I sent that. And then they go, your results are in. And you're like, oh, shit, I don't know if I want to read this, but I've paid 24 clams. I better. And then the first line was concerning. I'm like, oh, no, that's not good. And then they use all these long words like you have an irregular pigmented karyotic plaque over your face, which look like a flat pigmented subheriatic keratosis or solar lentigo.
Oh, Jesus.
And I'm
That's a
going,
mouthful.
that
You're
doesn't
fucked.
sound, none of those sound good. And it's like basically said, go see someone ASAP. So I'm like, shit. So I book into the skin cancer place at 20 to 4 thinking, fuck, this is it. I might start getting my affairs in order, and go in and see the guy. And he looks at it and he goes, yeah, well, mate, you were here 6 months ago. You're due for another 6 months. I said, mate, this thing here. He goes, what? I go, this thing here. He goes, oh, yeah, I'll have a look at it. He goes, no, that's a sunspot. You're getting old. I was like, what? Right. He goes, yeah, you can keep it. But I said, will it get bigger? He goes, yeah, probably get a bit bigger. I said, yeah, but I don't want to keep it then because you want me to freeze it off. I said, what's that involve? He goes, I'll freeze it. And he goes, it'll scab up a couple of weeks. I said, yeah, get it done. And then he goes, oh, it'll sting a bit. They always tell you that just before they do it. Oh, it burnt like a bastard. But now this thing's going to scab up, but it'll go.
You know how we love floating business ideas on the show? I just had a really good one. And it's essentially an extreme version of what you've just gone through. So it's an app that's, there to diagnose your, medical conditions. Basically, people go like, oh, got a sore throat, my hand hurts, and, whatever. Put it in the app, and the app comes back and goes, critical, this is code red.
Like,
Concerning.
$50. Yep, $50
Yeah.
will tell you what's wrong, but don't wait around because you don't have long.
No, that's it. It caused panic.
And
What do I got to pay?
Absolutely.
It could have been $100. I'll pay.
Exactly.
Just give me the news. And the news was go see someone. That's the end of it. We'll put out all these words.
You need to see a doctor. Yeah.
You need to see a doctor. So I'm at the same position. I'm $24 down. And yeah, I had 2 days of thinking, well, that was it.
Oh, at least you have skin cancer.
So you got scammed.
No, well, I know now. I'm fine. Got to burn off. So this thing's going to
Speaking of
scab
getting
up.
scammed, remember a couple of weeks ago how I was saying like Spanish government was sacking money out of my account, and I was outraged, and I thought like, shit, what's going on here? Just losing.
Yeah.
And it was just bunches. It was like €1,000, then €2,500, then $500, all this stuff.
It did not make any sense at the time when you were telling us. I thought, how does a government get away with that? But it's from George, so it must be true.
So I rang a lawyer and said, okay, you need to look at this because something's going on here. So I actually got hold of a lawyer, and he's like, yeah, this is pretty weird. I'll look into it for you. And he went to the tributary, like the office, everything like this, tax agency, everything like this, going, what's going on? He sent me this email, and he's like, you are a dickhead. Did you once live in Spain before I moved to Andorra? Yeah. Did you once own a car in Spain with this number plate? Yeah. And he's like, well, you've got €4,000 of speeding fines, mate. So he's like, you got like €3,800 of speeding fines and €13 because you once illegally parked your scooter. So
how quick were you going? That's a fair clip of the ticket.
You hope there's not one fine.
No. It was a lot of fines, but The worst thing is like it's this great money making scheme from the Spanish government where like if you don't, so you get sent a ticket, and obviously they're sending it to my old house. I don't even, don't live there. Didn't even, and then you need to go in and identify the driver, which I didn't do. So then it doubles, and then you've got like 4 weeks to pay it, and if you don't pay it, then that fine doubles. So suddenly you're paying like a €50 speeding ticket is like $800, and it just becomes this outrageous thing. So anyway, I sold that car.
Well, I've got a question on that.
It's weird that you have to go and identify yourself. I got a speeding fine in the mail in Andorra, and I was like, I'd had a recent altercation with my neighbour, who said, because I'd been threatened calling the cops on me, and I was like, you fucking won't call the cops. Go on then. And then like a week later, I got this letter in the mail from the police. I was like, ooh, he called the cops. He called the cops, and it said like to report. It was over nothing. I parked in the spot or something. I had an argument with him. I was eating an apple. I threw the apple core on the ground. I was pissed off, and then anyway, I was like, I'm not going to the cops. Like, I'm not going to report to the police over this shit. So I just didn't go. And then the letters just kept on coming. It's like, fuck. So 6 months later, I was like, I better go. So I went to the police station, and I was like, I got this letter. They wanted me to come and see you guys in March. It was like November at this point. I was flying to New Zealand the next day. And it was for a speeding fine. They're like, oh, you need to identify the driver. And they showed me the photo. And I was like, I don't have long blonde hair. Hannah.
They love calling cops in Spain. We used to get the neighbour above us, that old lady. Remember, she was psycho. But she'd call the cops if you're playing music through your laptop and you're just watching a YouTube video and you get the bang on the door, and she'd start going ape shit in Spanish. And I remember after a while, I had a few reds and I was like, I'm over this lady. So she just did it every time. And then one time I sent her over the edge where I couldn't speak Spanish, but I just said, you're loco. And that was it. Bang on the door, cops. I think Taryn was there at the time. Yeah, and she was moving back to Australia. So she showed him a passport and gave her passport number. I was like, oh, not sure about that.
Then didn't you deliver that old lady some flowers, like plastic flowers that
the housewarming
bride or something?
Well, yeah. I had the housewarming, the famous housewarming party, and that was generally worth calling the cops on. That was loud. And the next day I thought, nothing, a bottle of champers and some flowers won't fix. So I saw those flowers at the market and bought them and got the champers. When I'm taking them home, I'm going, geez, where's the dirt? And I was like, oh, no, they're plastic. Oh, well, they still look good. So I dropped them off at a door, and apparently in Spain you give them fake flowers when someone dies. So it was a message like, why don't you die and here's some champers before you go.
It's like putting a horse head in their bed, kind of the equivalent of...
Yeah, and like an hour later, the flowers and the champers were on the front door, so she gave them back. So I kept the flowers and put them on the coffee table. They were a great addition. But yeah. But no, with the speeding fines, when Australians, and this would happen with Kiwis, when we go to Europe, you hear these stories of the autobahns, and they go, no speed limits. You just gas it.
I love that myth. No speed limits. Can't get speeding on the motorway.
It's true in Germany.
It's not true in France.
It's not true on the AP7.
No.
I'll tell you that.
Okay. So I could be getting a few fines myself from the tour.
Oh, yeah, you will. They'll find a way to you if you got a rental car. But while we're talking about cop stories, we can always cut this out because this might be a terrible story for if Sam wants to tell it or not. I fully heard for the first time from start to finish.
What are you throwing me under the bus for?
No, you told me the story, but I'd never heard it from start to finish. You told it to me like 2 months ago. The start to finish story of how you got subpoenaed by the
I've
French
told that story.
From start to finish. I'd never heard the whole thing.
Oh, you told it on the podcast. Yeah.
Oh, I just zoned out.
You must have been, yeah. You must have zoned out. I've told that story.
I must not have been here. Oh, yeah. Okay.
So that's a good excuse for people to go back and filter through the other episodes if they want to hear that story. But that yellow jersey behind you, Jonesy, reminds me that the Tour de France happened. Should we fuck it off?
Oh, yeah, fuck it.
I'll tell you one good thing is I used you a few times to get to Poggy. Like I talked to your media manager and I said, hey, spoke to George. He's doing all right. This is after you had COVID. I hadn't spoken to you. I just assumed you'd be all right. And he goes, oh, good. I said, yeah, he's on the mend.
No, I wasn't. I was getting worse. I deteriorated in a big way.
Well, they only wanted positive news. Yeah.
Yeah.
They just wanted good news. I said, yeah, no, he's going all right. And then he looks at me and he goes, oh, you do the podcast with George? I said, yeah. And so then after that, because we're in the mix zone, I'd just give him the head nod and do the one finger, like, just one quick question. And he'd give me the nod, like, yeah, I'll bring him over. I thought, oh, yeah, I'm in now. And then that's why I finally did talk to you and said, oh, you got any messages for Poggy? And you go, yeah, just tell him keep washing his hands. And I said, all right, well, I rejigged that and said, oh, I got a message for you. He said, keep fighting, keep washing your hands. And then, it was awesome because every time he was in the mix zone, he'd bring him over. And then I thought because I kept mixing up legitimately, like when you'd say today, like I said to him once, today, so, what's the plan attack today or whatever, and just mumbled the words. So then I just started calling him Poggy, like you call him, and then that broke the ice, and then he started pissing himself at my accent, and that was great. So thanks for the leverage there, GB.
It was that final week of the tour. Like, it was one of the best Tour de France's. Tours de France, I think is how you say it in English, isn't it? Tour de France's. Tours de France, I think is the correct way. It was one of the best in many years. Like, especially with Pogman being the favourite, then being on the back foot, and then having to make, like, he just had to attack, which he did. It made it such an exciting race. And then, like, they had the women's tour that's just finished yesterday. It just like led into it. That was actually a really exciting race. Like, I think the organisers of the women's tour did such a good job with the design of the course. And I saw an interview from Annemiek van Vleuten just before we started the show, actually, and she said the same thing. Like, making interesting stages is what makes interesting racing. And the way the women race is so aggressive. Like, they just, it's a different style to the men's race where, some days a breakaway will big fight for the breakaway and the breakaway will win. Doesn't really happen so much in women's cycling. Like, they race every day, the top woman. They want to win every stage and win the overall.
I didn't get to see any of it because I was away racing, but there was like an early break and a team control. Similar format basically, or was it like just under 23, like more like our stint at Castilla y Leon, just people just going ape shit?
Yeah, people just going ape shit. But like, they did really well with the design of the course because it actually, like, it encouraged that. I mean, I've always been pretty vocal on this show about gravel stages and cobble stages and in tours. I don't think they should be there. And they had a gravel stage in the women's tour last midway through this tour. And again, I don't think the gravel should be in there. But the nature of the courses, they race a lot in the Champagne area, so short, steep climbs, like real classic style racing. And the racing was fucking exciting. It was really good to watch. And Annemiek was she was sick early on in the week. She was struggling a bit, lost a little bit of time here and there, and then just went on this mission 2 days to go.
She couldn't even pack her bags on the second day. She was that crook.
Really?
Yeah.
I saw this interview. It was a headline in Dutch, and apparently, like, she had to stop and like take a shit or something in the race, and she just goes, "Yeah, I had to stop and take a Tom Dumoulin'tje, like stop and take a little Tom Dumoulin."
It was a bloody good race. Hannah did it. She's home. She'll be home in a couple of hours, so looking forward to hearing about it. But
I got a couple of messages last night saying that the women's after party was far more off chops than anything that the men went through.
Have they got a version of the duplex up at the top of the mountain there? All you need is a nightclub where the aircon doesn't work and a smoker's room and a few strobe lights, and you got the duplex.
Did you go out
and up the tour, isn't it?
No, cooked. Got to 11:30, walked 21.5 Ks, and it was like you couldn't get a feed anywhere at the restaurant. That's the shit thing about finishing late. By the time you do all your work, you finish at 9:30, 10, and then you're walking around, you go in every restaurant, you sit down, you look at the menu, and then you go, hang on, where's the food? And then you come out and you go, mate, where's your food menu? He goes, nah. I look at you like, you fucking kidding me? He goes, no, drinks only. We go, oh, well, fuck. Went to about 3 different restaurants, and then ended up doing the Macca's run, and I was cooked. 11/3.
Even our team was saying the same thing. I was speaking with Matty Heyman the other day, and he said, like, because the stage finishes so late, and then obviously you spend quite a lot of time at the finish on the Champs-Élysées. Like, obviously, I don't think they do the lap of the lap of honor anymore.
No laps anymore. No.
Why'd they stop that actually?
COVID.
I think
Probably.
they're stopping the Champs, and I think the Champs doesn't exist again. I think it's over.
Next year, I think.
Last year.
2024
no, next
finishes
year.
in Nice, though.
Oh, is it done?
Well, because the
Yeah.
Olympics.
Ah,
They're making
I think
it
they're
like a
great.
walking path.
Yeah, exactly. They're turning the whole Champs-Elysees into like a green space. So I don't think they're going to be done it.
It's interesting. Like I can't really weigh in too much on unpack the tour because I got home, I was so depressed and so sick that I watched one stage and went, oh, it was the stage, Grenon, and went, fuck, I needed to be there. Who completely isolated, whatever, like Jumbo just, and I got into that stage and I was like, my soul was leaving my body. Said, I'm not watching this again. And basically didn't watch the tour again until I think the time trial, tuned in for a little bit of time trial, and then I was like,
You went the opposite path to me.
me.
When I crashed out of the tour, my only ever Tour de France, crashed out on stage 10 and broke my wrist. I went the opposite. I just like immersed myself so deep into the Tour de France. Like I was doing a detour podcast with Jonsey every day.
That's
and
right.
I was like doing like special commentary and like I was just like, fucking give me the tour. I need it.
Really? Oh, see,
Yeah,
I couldn't get far enough away from it. Because I think it just hurt, so much.
Yeah.
You see anything, turn it on, it just hurt. You're like, it's like painful watching TV.
The fact that you were in good
you're-
form too. Like if you were starting the tour and then you were going shit, you probably would have been like, oh well.
Yeah.
But you were going good, so you're like, fuck, I could have been there.
You're the kind of guy, GB, that like when the family dog dies, you like bury it like on the other side of the country. So you just, and just go, all right,
Yeah.
get away from that dog. Whereas I'm the kind of guy that would like put it like taxidermy and put it on the mantelpiece or something. I don't want that dog to go.
People talk about that. Like, you need to talk about your feelings and go through it. Actually, that was one bit of advice you gave me after I think it was I was like maybe 8 days after I'd left, and I was still just like couldn't go near the tour, just hated it. And you're like, mate, you're just gonna have to go through this. You're just gonna have to go through it one night. You're just gonna have to go through it. And I think I even made like a playlist. You're just like, all right, just go through it, just get it out,
Yeah.
And
You got to, at a certain point, you've got to front it. You've got to front the disappointment. Like I used to most of my disappointments have come from injuries. And I used to always just like at a certain point, just go like, righto, tonight's the night. I'd like put on like fucking, I don't know. Nick Cave.
Chicago.
And like just open a bottle of wine and just feel like shit, But like, I reckon it's the most helpful thing you can do. You got to, at a certain point, you got to front it. You can't keep like, because it'll eventually simmer over.
But it's also translated from a mate going, mate, shut the fuck up and get over it.
Yeah. Sick of fucking hearing
Yeah. When the mate goes, mate, just feel it, deal with it. And then if you're not better
don't
tomorrow,
talk to me about it again.
I'll do what you're doing to the tour and fucking you can have 3 weeks on the sideline.
Yeah. It is interesting though, like because the last time I went positive about 5 hours after we did our last podcast. You know how like I woke up from the nap? It was a weird story because like we were talking about in the last pod we were talking about like feeling good. The day before I'd done a good stage. I'd gone through 8 days of shit, the cobble stage, Denmark, all the shit stages, and the next day we're starting the Alps and everything was going well. Everything was like this. And I was like, oh man, I've just woken up from that crazy long nap. And then a few people like me after the news came out that I'd gone pause that evening. They're like, oh, you didn't look right. I was like, I'm just woken up from a nap. But how it started was like, I thought from that nap I'd like crooked my neck a bit. And so I like was talking to the doctor that night. I was like, oh man, I got a bit of a headache because I'd done a test the day before with the organization with the UCI. And by some miracle, 500 tests were negative. So everybody in the organization, every person that's putting up signs, every sports director, every rider, masseuse, mechanic, who are they kidding? Come on. Yeah. Who are they kidding?
Yeah, it's bullshit.
What the hell? Like with how positive I was on the PCR that I did that night, yes, I was positive on the rapid. So I don't know. They maybe just dip a thing up my nose and who knows. But Yeah, so I went to the doc, and that night the doc's like, "Yeah, how you doing, mate?" Like, obviously does his rounds. I was like, "Oh, yeah, feel good, but just got like this. I think I slept funny, I got a bit of a headache." And he looked at me and goes, "Oh, and I went, "What?" And he goes, "No, just nothing. But we'll just do another test, eh?" I was
So
like,
I've got
"No,
an app.
I'm fine."
We've got an app you can use.
Yeah.
Put your symptoms in that.
And then because my doc's the man, he's such a good guy, and he's like one of those guys that like he cares really about the riders, really, and he's like came in because this is apparently how now I know now that how all that other cases it starts with a slight headache, and he came in, did the test, and he was telling me a story mid-test, like he's doing the test, right, and he's putting it in, waiting for it to come up, and he was telling me a story about something, and then halfway through, I noticed that he kind of just lost his train of thought and drifted off. And I started looking at him, and then he just goes like, fuck. And I was like, what?
Oh, no.
Fuck,
And he just turned the test around, and it was like this thick red line. And I was like,
There was
came back from it good. Got second in Castilla y Leon.
oh, that was a sympathy result if I've ever had one.
I didn't finish, and I hadn't even had COVID.
But it was funny because me and Bewls just did this race in France, in Spain, Castilla y Leon, and we were talking on the start line about the last day, like, and I was giving him shit about like, what's going to happen today, and I was like, you got to finish. It's a big lap, But little did I know, it was actually there was a way to not finish the race. I was like, you got to finish because otherwise you got to go training. He's like, do I?
I always knew there was a possibility I wouldn't finish because of our tactics that we were going to employ that stage. Was always going to put me like it was always going to drop me with quite a long way to go because that was what we had to do to make the race hard. And I didn't actually know there was a shortcut, but as soon as I got dropped, you go into the Garmin and just go back to start, most direct route. And I was like, 17K, sweet. Straight down the highway.
That was your best 17K of the race.
I was thinking, George, the other downside of you testing positive is that crazy French guy who gave you the poster. He's not going to see your actions as you didn't want to see him. It's like, oh, no, he was sick. That's why he was giving me the cold shoulder. He had COVID. Yeah. So he'll be back. He's coming back. So gear up.
Something to look forward to.
Lombardia, he'll be there.
Back to this Castilla y Leon race, how I've never had such a sympathy result in my life. So what happened was we get to the bottom of this climb, green edge. Mitchelson just go ape shit, like so hard. And then Yatesy just clips off. And I didn't get on his wheel. And I tried to follow him, and then everyone around me cracked, and I was just in no man's land and couldn't stay with him. So we had this little group, and some guys came back. And eventually, like, this huge group came back. And like, it was like guys controlling the race. But Yatesy was already like 40 seconds, 50 seconds up the road. And I just clipped off, like, doing this because I was like, oh, just try, And I've never had it in my life. Nobody chased. They just let me go. They just went. And I was like, wait, no one's coming with me? No one's chasing? What's going on here? And then it was like, I had like 10K gratis. Just got this huge gap. And then they're like, oh, shit, we better chase him. Way too late. And got second.
But did you attack on the climb?
Yeah, but then they came back to me. Then I went again on the second part of the climb, on the kicker.
Well, maybe they didn't let you go. Maybe they couldn't follow you.
Yeah, maybe you're actually going good.
Back yourself.
Nah, they let me go. For sure they let me go.
And then you're like, fuck, there's 20K to go. I'm going to do this by myself now.
Yeah, it was so long as well.
It's like sometimes when you get in a breakaway and you're in a breakaway. I've been in a few before where it's a breakaway that's got zero chance. And you just like ride along, you're just like, fuck, just catch us. Just catch us.
Or when you're in the breakaway that it might survive, but you're the worst guy. So you're in a breakaway with 8 guys and you're the worst. And you're getting 8th, or you're even getting dropped before the finish, and it's on TV. So you start going, how can I slow this breakaway down so we get caught before I'm dropped from the breakaway? So like you could say like, oh, if we just had a bit more time, I would have won that. And you're just like, you're looking for any way to just be the handbrake in the breakaway, rolling through too fast, sitting up, like just starting all sorts of rubbish in the pellet. It's actually not a bad tactic.
No, it's not. If you're on a rough one.
You didn't have a bad ride at San Sebastian either, GB.
Uh,
13, 4
13th.
minutes off.
No, I wasn't. I tell you what, because what happened was obviously I got quite sick with COVID, had heaps of time off, had 10 days essentially doing nothing. A couple of rides towards the end of the 10 days. Then went training a bit and just got absolutely suffered. Did three training rides and then went to these races. So went to San Sebastian and had every single heart rate medal for the whole year. So like your biggest 5 second, 1 minute, 5 minute, 10 minute, 1 hour, 90 minutes, everything, all new heart rate records. So basically I spent 5.5 hours on the ropes, like absolutely suffering, getting dropped, coming back, getting stuff. Wasn't even in the race, but just cockroached it. And then the next day I was okay. Yesterday I was okay. Yesterday was the first day I'd say I was like coming back to life.
Just cockroached it. I've never heard that before.
You know, you just won't die. You just
There's another shirt.
You just
The
like,
cockroach.
Just cockroached it.
And then yeah.
Good reaction from the guys for the shirts, the merch.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll tell you one downside of that though. One downside of that is how many people call me a shit bloke in my day-to-day life now. Even this young bloke in the pillow yesterday, he's like, "What is it today, mate? Shit rider, good bloke." And I was like,
"That's so good."
That's awesome.
We're going to do a. We've got the hats. Well, we had a comment actually saying like, if you're promoting your hats, why aren't you wearing them on the podcast? And I was like, that's a fucking good point. But I actually haven't got one because they are in they've been manufactured still. But George has got a couple couple of samples we got. So we're going to do a photo shoot, I reckon, this week or something, or some point.
Yeah.
Do a little photo shoot with the hats. Because we've also got another hat. We've got that merch hat. And we've also got another hat we're going to release soon, which is just the logo on the hat.
I've got one. I've washed it. Do you want me to grab it?
Washed it?
Yeah. The tour. It's a salt.
Who washes hats?
I did. Because, when you get those salt marks or whatever, you got to wash that out. And when you sweat.
I don't think you get those if you... Yeah, I only think you get those salt marks if you're doing like 5-hour stages in the Alps, not if you're doing interviews in the press zone.
Mate, 40 degrees, standing in the bloody sun for 2 hours, cook it up. But no, they wash well. So that's a good sign.
We should put that on the description. They wash well.
Wash well.
Yeah. No,
but yeah, we got a logo hat. It's basically just a blue hat with the logo on it. So that's the hat.
Yeah.
Tilt it forward a bit. You can see hasn't been washed very well. It's still salty.
Oh, it's still, mate. You should have seen it beforehand. Way better.
They'll be on sale soon. But when we do sell them, they won't come with the salt line across the bottom like Jonsey's one. They'll be new, be fresh.
I might put it through the ringer again.
It's like a baggy green.
Yeah. Well, it's been around France, so survived the trip in 40-degree heat. You got a big announcement, Bewls.
I do. I'm a bit nervous about this announcement, actually.
You need to get 4 or 5 more mics next to your mic, and then get a backdrop. Yeah, get a backdrop with all like your sponsors and.
That's it. Yeah. No, it's a funny announcement. You boys know, obviously, but the listeners will know that 2022 will be my last year as a professional cyclist, hanging the helmet up at the end of the year. So it's been a hell of a ride. Been bloody professional for near on 15 years. This is all I've been doing for 20 years. 20 years since I first came to Europe. A couple of Olympic medals, met some fucking awesome people, had some awesome experiences. But I've sort of been toying with the idea for the last year or so. And then the first 6 months of this year, I was pretty indecisive, not really sure what I wanted to do, and probably a bit of a hard person to live with for Hannah. I was sort of internalized a lot of my decision making, kept pretty silent about it. Not for any other reason that I was just unsure, and I kind of felt like it was a decision I really needed to make by myself without any other influences or opinions or whatever. And I mean, Hannah was amazing through the whole process, just letting me do that. So yeah, about a month ago, I called the team and just told them that I'm gonna retire into the year. So yeah, a couple more months left of racing, but yeah, I'm trying not to get emotional actually.
That's a long time, like as a pro. Like I remember when I announced that I wasn't going to do the videos anymore, I lost my shit. I couldn't even talk to the boys. I was cooked at the time anyway, but still.
It was at the end of the Vuelta.
Yeah.
But
when you look back at it, what obviously riding the tour's got to be right up there, but what would you say is the best memories you've got, particularly on the road?
There's so many, and like I was thinking about it. I've been obviously reflecting on my career a bit over the last few weeks, and like there's so many cool experiences that I've had, like based on performances. Obviously, like 2018, the Giro 2018 was probably a real highlight of like my performance on the road, where I was riding really well. I really felt like in that tour I was one of the best Grand Tour domestiques in the world at that point. And obviously Yatesy was flying, and then we had the disappointment when he lost the jersey with a couple of days to go. But like that was like a real highlight for me. And yeah, the tour was. I mean, I always wanted to go to the tour like every other professional cyclist, and for a whole bunch of different reasons, I only went once, which was an amazing experience as well, because we actually had the yellow jersey there, and we led the race with Adam Yates for 3 or 4 days. He gave me a yellow jersey afterwards. And that was a huge disappointment for me as well, because I crashed out of the fucking thing. So I never made it to Paris. I'm gonna end my career without having ever made it to Paris, but I'm okay with that as well, because I was at the tour, and it wasn't my fault that I didn't get to Paris, and it was still an amazing experience. But I think like when I reflect on my career the most, like it's less about things that we've done on the bike and performances that I've had, or performances that I've been involved with other teammates like Matty Heyman, and poster behind me you can see when he won Paris-Roubaix. That was another experience. But like just the people I've met, like I've made a life over here in Europe. I met some like people like my best friends. They've made Europe a home for me, because they're less friends and more of a family. And you were obviously a big part of that, Jonsey. You were a big part of molding that culture of the group of friends we have over here. And of course, George, like my best mate. It's been just like a pretty fucking unique experience, and a pretty special experience that a lot of people don't get, and meet some pretty cool people. And I guess like hanging up the helmet is one thing, but I feel pretty okay. I feel really good about it. I don't question my decision at all. It was sort of always where my gut was at the last 12 months. Just took a little bit of push to grow the balls to make the decision in the end. But the good thing is that I'm staying in Europe. I'm not going back to New Zealand like a lot of people do. Kiwis and Aussies, they go back to Australia or New Zealand as soon as they finish. But I'm not doing that. I'm going to stay over here in Europe. So it's less of it's good that it's just going to be a retirement party as opposed to a goodbye party. I'm definitely not ready for that. So yeah, a couple of months to go.
But then how crazy is it? Like when I think of, I mean, it's such a good decision to make, or the time is right. If you're not waking up and absolutely shitting yourself that you're not going to be doing pro cycling next year. Like for example, I'm at the point where I'd go, the thought of not being a professional cyclist, it's really scary, And if like something happened and I couldn't be a pro cyclist tomorrow, it was taken away from me, whatever. I'm so the thought of that is so like overwhelming. But if you wake up one morning and go, I actually don't want to do this. This isn't, because then it's the right time, because it's such a hard sport. Like think about everything we give up. Like, you think your whole life is restricted in terms of what you can do, where you have to be, food, not going out, looking after your body, hurting, and more than anything, hurting yourself, like actually physically hurting yourself for a cause. If you're not 100% in it, then it's too hard. Then it's time to go, right, let's see what else I can bring to the sport or my life or whatever, in some other way than actually being a rider. Then
and it's a really bizarre experience, that, George, because like for like the better part of my career up until this point, I have felt always like that. Like if this sport was to be taken away from me for one reason or another, or a team wasn't going to give me a contract, or I had an injury that stopped me from racing, like I wasn't ready for that, and I did shit myself at those thoughts. But now, like and it's funny when you speak to people, like I spoke to you, you know, you were probably one of the first people I spoke to about it, George, like quite a while ago. And like, I could see how you were thinking like, oh, fuck, but don't stop, man. Like, fuck, like, but like,
because that was
you're not
exactly
there. And like, it's, no one can really understand the time when you're ready to stop. Like, you'll never understand it until you're at that point yourself. And like, you can't explain it to anybody. You just kind of know. And like, it's off the back of like some hard times for me, you know, like fucking COVID, I didn't handle well, like the lockdown period. Then I had the Tour de France injury, the broken wrist that put me off the bike for like 7 or 8 months, having to come back from all that. And then like, I really, like last year was a tough year for me because the wrist was still giving me lots of trouble. But then the first 6 months of this year, I've been riding, I think, back not to my best level, but to a good level. And I kind of proved to myself that I could do that. And I feel like I didn't need to prove it to anybody else, but I wanted to prove it to myself. And now I feel like I don't need to do that again. You know, I don't, like, I was telling my dad, I was like, I could try and go for another year or, you know, like, but if I had another injury like that, then I just wouldn't have the mental capacity or the energy to try to come back from it again. And like, I know I'm speaking hypothetically now, but like, I just don't even want to put myself in that position. And I love the sport. I love cycling, but all the things I love about riding a bike, I don't need to be racing to achieve those. I just like going out and riding now and talking shit with the boys and having fun and just enjoying the sport for what it is, like from the recreational side, I guess. But I love the scene as well. I love the people. Like I said, I love the people I've met, and I want to continue to be involved with those people. And as much as I'm ready to stop pinning the number on, I'm not ready to leave the scene yet. And what I do next year, I don't know yet. It's still up in the air. But hopefully, I plan on staying involved in the scene. That's why I want to stay in Europe and obviously support Hannah through her. You know, she's still racing next year, and still just be involved in the scene and get out on the bike. I've ordered a new gravel bike, so I'll be fucking railing the gravel. I'm not going to race it. I'll say that. I'll make a real point. I won't be fucking racing it, but I'll be.
I don't know. It'll be you and Hassie battling it out for UCI points on the gravel.
You write a few blogs.
The only gravel scene I'm joining is the one where I can have a couple of beers mid ride.
I love the contrast between GB and me. Anytime you talk about retirement, my advice was, just fucking bin it. Because I don't get it.
Drink piss with.
That's it.
I would say two things on this, right? Firstly, let's say on your career or whatever. I think especially in your role or what you bring into teams and stuff, you can't quantify like a successful career by what races you've won or what results you've ridden or whatever, because so much of what you were doing was bringing like, okay, there's all the road captain stuff, there's all the organization on the stuff, you know, but then how much more stuff is like dinner, let's say like, for lack of a better word, the dinner table, you know, how much of that is so important to have guys around that bring the environment, that bring the culture. Let's call it like a culture. I mean, Jumbo used the term culture carriers, but I think, you know, this is more like you've been the DNA of that team. You've been like the epitome of like a Mitchelton rider, no? Like fighting on the bike, hell of a relaxed, enjoyable time off the bike. But you know what I mean? Getting it done, everything like that. So much of that stuff you can't quantify by a result or how many times you've ridden the tour or how many grand tours you were part of winning, because ultimately that shit's not up to you, you know? Mitchelton always targeted the Giro, you always went to the Giro. So who cares about Paris, you know? It's more like people look back and go, fuck yeah, when that guy stops, that's going to leave a huge hole in this team, you know? And even if it's not on the bike, they can find, honestly, if we're speaking honestly, they can probably find a 21-year-old Dutchy big guy who could push more watts, you know? That's how it is now. But they're not going to find the same guy that can bring a group together, you know? So that's the hole you're living in. That's the stuff that's so hard to quantify. But the other thing is, we're talking about injuries. I don't know anyone that's had such a run. You think back to the year you were going to ride the Tour and you hit that timing strip at was it Tour de Suisse? Oh, Romandy. That was the shoulder, no?
Yeah.
From that point on, man, what we've touched on this before on the show. It was, I think we got to like 11 broken bones or something. Like your run was out of control, and you just think like every time you got to come back from an injury, it's like one, you're also out of the scene, so you're out of the picture. You got to fight your way back into the team. You got to fight your way back from zero. You got to, you know what I mean? It's so taxing. It's
I remember
unbelievable.
after you crashed in the 2014 Roubaix, and Jules went and saw you in the hospital. I remember afterwards, I said to Jules, "Oh, how's Jules?" He goes, "Yeah." I sort of said to him, like, if he wants to go back and do the track, you know, no one's going to blink an eye at him. That was in 2014. That was 8 years ago.
Yeah, because I had a bad run of injuries there, and I think Jules was just like, he was obviously, he's a guy who's been a pretty big and special part of my career, mentor of mine. He coached me for a while, and he still is my mentor now. But I think he just genuinely cared for me. He just saw me getting injured so much, and he was like, "Mate, try to." He was trying to find a place for me in cycling where I wasn't going to get fucking beaten up every time I lined up.
Well, if you see the crash at the Commonwealth Games, the track cycling's no better for you. Fuck me, that was out of control.
Did you see the photos of that? The little kid?
Yeah, it was nuts, though.
Hang on, I think
I haven't. I couldn't see a video. I couldn't load anything. It was all geo-restricted, but it sounded pretty nasty.
It was a bad crash, but thankfully they're all okay. Like I was watching it live, and then like the broadcasters, the host broadcasters, did an awesome job. Like the crash happened, it was 3/4 of the lap to go, so they were filming the bunch in the sprint, and the crash happened. They immediately just went away with the camera, and they never showed replays, which
who have gone back to it.
So these are the photos. So there's this one, and then there was another photo. And if you're listening, like there's this carnage.
But that Canadian bloke.
Yeah, he got his arm caught and broke it in the railing there.
Oh,
so
hey, is that a Kiwi on the ground?
Yeah, it's George Jackson.
Yeah, but then if you zoom in on the other photo, right, the dad is using the redheaded daughter as a human shield, and then you see the next photo where it's clearly evident that he's like closed his eyes.
Oh my god!
Put her up as a human shield.
This is out of control.
Or he's trying to get her out of the way, I reckon.
Yeah, I don't know.
But thankfully, everyone was okay. Like that was Matt
okay,
Walls.
yeah.
He's Olympic. He won the Omnium at the Olympics in Tokyo, and he ended up in the stands there, as you can see in those photos. And he was there for a long time. Like they stopped the racing for about an hour while the medical staff attended to him. But he was in the end like battered and bruised and a few stitches and cuts and stuff. But he was released from hospital in the evening. Yeah, it was fucking gnarly.
Pretty amazing when people can walk away from that, eh?
Yeah.
Like, how fast are they going? 65, 70?
Oh, yeah, 70.
Like,
that was scratch race qualifying, but then the final won by Cobb and Sean. Kiwis are bloody ripping the track, ripping the boards apart, and I'd like to say Birmingham, but it's in London.
Scotty McGraw was saying there's a track rider and his name's David Beckham because his family were big soccer fans, and there's a Ronaldinho as well.
Yeah, they're both from India.
Really?
And his name's David Beckham, and Beckham's his middle name. His last name I don't know. But then the other guy's first name's Ronaldo or Ronaldinho. Like they both their parents were just massive soccer fans, so they called their kid. Bless you.
Thank you.
They called their kids after David Beckham and Ronaldo.
We've been derailed from retirement chat.
That's right. We can't harp on it forever.
Nah, well, yeah. Shit, that's gonna be
it's gonna be a good piss
It's gonna be a hell of a send off. It's quite weird for me because now it's the first time I would say like my friends are retiring. Like Mitch Docker last year, you now, probably another couple of guys next year. You just think, shit. I mean, the big thing is though, like you say, it's a retirement party, not a goodbye party, right?
Yeah. I reckon.
Transition party.
Do you know what I reckon I'm going to do for after the retirement party? A couple of days after the retirement party. Yeah, I reckon I might just treat myself and head over and see my mate Jace at Miller Resorts in Maldives for a few days.
Oh yeah,
put the feet up.
Why not?
Yeah,
do a live show from the Maldives.
Yeah, get Jace on,
or do a competition, rig it, and win it.
I guess there won't be any Russians there these days.
No. I wouldn't. No, there's no drama there. See, George was onto it. He was onto it early. And everyone said, "Oh, better not upset the Russians." You can tee off now.
yeah.
Doesn't
Anyway,
matter.
that's enough of that. Yeah, looking forward to getting those photos of the hats done. We'll get these other ones up online shortly as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Anything else?
All right. Nah,
No.
I've just spent all morning in Barcelona. Flew in late last night from the thing. Had a bougie night, but I'm looking for a chaqueta, a chaque. It's a tux with tails. You know, the long. I got a mate's wedding.
The penguin suit.
Yeah, the penguin suit. Exactly.
Why do you want a penguin? Why do you have to wear a penguin suit?
I'm a testigo at a wedding in
Testicle.
Spain.
There you go.
A testicle.
Yeah,
Isn't
What's
it?
that?
testicle at a wedding in Spain. It's a witness.
Mm.
Yeah,
Ah, so you have to wear the tails as a witness.
It's an honor. It's not a. You get to wear the tails.
The only other time you could wear those is if you go to the races at Ascot. They wear the tails with the top hats. So you need to
Oh,
then afterwards go to Ascot. Well, Bewley will be around.
Maybe I'll have
next year.
maybe for my retirement party then I'll have a Gatsby theme so you can wear the tails again.
Wear the
Yeah.
tails. yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
perfect.
good suit. All right.
Yeah,
All right.
we'll struggle to
Nothing
find one of
else.
them in Girona though.
Yeah, don't exist in drone. I tell you that.
No. Maybe at the
Alright.
G-Star store.
I need to get back to bed, boys. I'm starting to fade.
All right. Like, share, subscribe. Look out for the next drop of hats.
And if you've got any medical issues, use an app.